December 31st, 1999. As the world celebrated the new millennium, a little-known bureaucrat stood before Russia's most powerful podium. His name was Vladimir Putin, and in just hours he would become acting president of the largest country on earth. But this wasn't luck. This wasn't chance. What if I told you that behind that cold, calculating eyes lay a story of transformation so complete, so methodical, that it would reshape the entire world order? A story that begins not in the halls of power, but in the frozen streets of Soviet Leningrad. Today, we uncover the truth behind the man who went from complete obscurity to one of the most powerful leaders in modern history. This is the story of Vladimir Putin. October 7th, 1952. A small communal apartment in Leningrad. A woman gives birth to her third son. Two brothers before him didn't survive infancy. In a city still scarred by the Nazi siege that killed over 1 million people, young Vladimir Putin entered a world of hardship. His father was a factory worker. His mother a cleaning lady. They shared a 5th-floor walk-up with 2 other families. No hot water, rats in the stairwell. Putin would later say he chased those rats with sticks as a boy. But here's where it gets interesting. While other boys played soccer, young Putin became obsessed with something else entirely. Spy films. Specifically, a Soviet series called The Shield and the Sword, about a Soviet spy infiltrating Nazi Germany. At 12 years old, Putin walked into the local KGB headquarters and asked how he could become a spy. The officer looked at this scrawny kid and said, "Get a degree. Stay out of trouble. We'll find you." And that's exactly what he did. Putin studied law. He joined the judo club, becoming a black belt. He stayed disciplined, patient, invisible. In 1975, the KGB recruited him. He was 23. For the next 16 years, Vladimir Putin disappeared into the shadows of Soviet intelligence. But the question everyone should be asking is this: what happened during those years? What did he learn? What did he become? Because when Putin finally emerged from the intelligence world, he wasn't just a former spy. He was something far more dangerous. A strategist who understood that real power isn't loud. It's quiet, methodical, and absolutely ruthless. August 1991. The Soviet Union collapsed. For most KGB officers, this was a catastrophe. Their entire world had evaporated overnight. But Putin, he pivoted. He returned to St. Petersburg and attached himself to the city's mayor, working in the shadows as an advisor. While Russia descended into chaos, the mafia taking over, the economy collapsing, people starving, Putin was learning a different game. Political power. Here's the thing, everyone underestimated him. He was quiet, forgettable. One journalist described him as having the presence of furniture. Perfect. Because while oligarchs fought over Russia's wealth and politicians screamed at each other on television, Putin was building a network. Then, in 1996, he made his move to Moscow. Within 2 years, this unknown bureaucrat was appointed head of the FSB, the successor to the KGB. 1 year after that, Boris Yeltsin, Russia's ailing president, needed a successor he could control. He chose Putin. Big mistake. On December 31st, 1999, Yeltsin resigned. Putin became acting president. Russia was on its knees, humiliated, poor, angry. The oligarchs thought they had a puppet. They were wrong. Within months, Putin began consolidating power. An oligarch who challenged him, their TV station seized. Another who fled abroad, arrested in a dramatic operation. The message was clear. The rules had changed. But Putin needed more than fear. He needed legitimacy. And then, something terrible happened that would give him exactly that. September 1999. 4 apartment buildings across Russia exploded in the middle of the night. Nearly 300 people died in their sleep. Putin immediately blamed Chechen terrorists. The country was terrified, furious, demanding action. And Putin gave it to them. He launched the Second Chechen War with a now infamous quote: "We will pursue terrorists everywhere. If we find them in the bathroom, we'll waste them in the outhouse." Russians, tired of weakness, loved it. Putin's approval ratings skyrocketed. But here's where the story gets darker. Some critics and journalists began asking questions about those apartment bombings. Suspicious evidence emerged. A fifth bomb was found and defused, planted by men later identified as FSB agents. The official explanation? A training exercise. Journalists who investigated too deeply started dying. Poisoned. Shot. Falling from windows. Whether those questions had merit or not, one thing became undeniable. Putin had learned the most important lesson of power. Control the narrative. Control the fear. And never, ever show weakness. Over the next decade, Putin transformed Russia. Oil prices soared. The economy recovered. Pensions were paid. For ordinary Russians after the chaos of the 90s, Putin brought stability. But he also brought something else. A system where all power flowed through him. And then in 2022, he made a decision that would shock the world. February 24, 2022. Russian tanks rolled into Ukraine. Putin had calculated that the West was weak, divided, and wouldn't respond. He expected Kiev to fall in days. Didn't. Instead, the world united against him. Sanctions crushed the Russian economy. NATO expanded. And a war Putin thought would be over in weeks has stretched into years. For the first time in 2 decades, the strategist had miscalculated. But here's what makes Putin's story so compelling and so dangerous. Even now, even after everything, he remains in power. Because the system he built over 25 years wasn't designed to be fair or democratic. It was designed to be unbreakable. Think about it. The boy who chased rats in a Leningrad stairwell became the man who redrew the map of Europe. The invisible bureaucrat became one of the most recognizable faces on Earth. How did he do it? Putin understood something that most people miss about power. It's not about being loved. It's not even about being feared. It's about being inevitable. About creating a system where you're not just the leader, you're the only option. But every empire built by one person has a fatal flaw. What happens when that person is gone? So here we are. Vladimir Putin is now in his 70s. He's rewritten Russia's constitution to stay in power potentially until 2036. He's survived coup attempts, sanctions, and international isolation. But history teaches us something about leaders who concentrate all power in themselves. Their empires rarely outlast them. The boy who dreamed of being a spy achieved something more remarkable and more terrible than any fiction. He didn't just serve power, he became it. And perhaps the most chilling part of Putin's story isn't what he's done. It's that somewhere out there, right now, another invisible person is watching, learning, and waiting for their moment.